Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting of Tuesday, March 10th to order. Would everyone please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we go to public comment, obviously we are going to talk about the virus that is engulfing much of the conversation in the country, if not the world. And Rockport certainly is taking proper steps to make sure that we're taking this seriously. The government, both federal and state, are working very hard on it, and we will be following their lead and what they have told us that we need to do. But there'll be other specific things that the town of Rockport will be looking at canceling, moving, just to be cautious. This is a very, very serious virus, as everyone knows, and we have to take things extremely serious, including town meeting, which is for April 4th, and we will be discussing that later on as well. So, but if people would like to address the Board of Selectmen, please stand, state your name, and what you'd like to say. Tom?
Tom Mikas, 73 Montbean Way, Long Beach, this afternoon. High tide.
Tom, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Maybe turn that thing off next to you.
No, it's still, you still can't hear.
Still
it.
can't hear
Yeah.
you. Go ahead.
Can you hear?
Is Becky in there?
Yep. Room volume. Little
Try it now, Tom. Say hello.
Tom Mikas, hello.
That's
bit-
much better.
little
There
bit
you
more.
go.
Just
That's coming. Thank
Testing,
you.
testing. Long Beach,
okay.
this afternoon. High tide. No beach. 5 houses, no access. Climate change gets worse. New leases, managed retreat. Start now.
Thank you. Mr. Arsenian.
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. At your last 3 meetings, I spoke about my concerns about the Government and Bylaw Committee, and now I'm assured that I will have a response.
Mitch, do you want to tackle that one?
The
The
Bylaw
Government
Committee.
and Bylaw Committee, I attend, you attend, they have decided that they're no longer going to advise the town meeting on the substance of articles that would result in changes to the bylaws or new bylaws, that they would only advise on the form of the articles. And I feel that this is a major change, although it's not being acknowledged as such, and I feel a mistake. And I feel that the board should weigh in on it and ask the board, the last time I spoke, to invite the Government and Bylaw Committee in and discuss the matter. It's basic for the town meeting that we get some advice. Many people don't go to meetings and arrive at the town meeting cold.
Okay, well,
So, Mr. Chairman,
yeah, quickly, please.
sure.
I
So
know we have other
the government
things.
bylaw had 2 items that they considered at their last meeting. One they voted on, one they did not. I expect that this will be a topic again at their next meeting prior to town meeting.
Okay.
You will certainly be sure that the concerns from a previous speaker are indicated to them, and depending on where they land with their second vote on this matter, I'll certainly report that back to the board, and you can take a stance on it at that time if you wish.
Okay. Mr. Campbell?
Do they have a charge?
They do. They have a charge in the bylaws.
What does the charge state? I haven't read it. I should. I'm sure you don't know it verbatim. I get it.
I'm
But
good.
I
I'm not
think-
that good.
I think that should be our guide, because if they
Sure.
want to make a change, then we should change the charge. And if they want to change the charge on something as drastic, then we should meet and talk about it.
Yes, I'm not sure that in their minds they're going outside of the charge.
Okay.
So they haven't made any final
So
landings.
it's not
on
our
things, so.
authority to weigh in on it.
So the board always has a voice in matters.
Right, but
you
I
can
mean, to
certainly
change.
share your opinion, but
Yeah.
a bylaw change would be just that. It would have to be an actual bylaw change
Right.
to change their charge.
Right.
Right.
Do they have a next meeting scheduled?
They don't, but they will need one prior to
Yep.
town meeting to take stances.
Okay.
So depending on the discussion later this evening, there'll be one at least a couple weeks prior to town meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes. Actually, I read you the relevant portions of their charge. The first.
I want to read the whole thing.
Oh, well, I don't know whether you were here at that meeting or not, but I read the portions that are in any way relevant. So they have decided that, it means something that in plain English it doesn't mean.
Okay.
and
Very good. All right. Thank you, Toby.
May I go on to a second subject?
Very quickly, because we got to keep moving.
Yes, here is the Honorable Senator Tarr, and there is the Superintendent of Schools, and shortly we're going to be asked for an override. And the reason that the schools, who are good and cautious with money, can't live within the budget is the special ed expenses. Not to speak against the special ed programs, which would
No, I
be
understand.
a monster, but they're an unfunded mandate from the state. The town labors under, and most of us feel it's a good thing, Proposition 2.5, so we can't raise more money. The state, although of course it's painful and difficult, can. And I think that you should be asking Senator Tarr, the school committee should be asking Senator Tarr to fund all of the special ed expenses. An unfunded mandate and an open-ended program, one might say expense no object, simply does not work in terms of any budget which is necessarily finite.
Good. Thank you very much. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to move on to, are we waiting for Ann Margaret? Okay. We'd like to introduce Senator Bruce Tarr, our state senator for the last 25 years. Is that about
Well, closer to 26. Mr.
26?
Chairman. Yeah.
Just counting.
4 in the House, though, right? 4 in the House?
4 in the House.
I remember
Yeah.
it. So, well, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to offer the best regards of our state representative. She could not be with us tonight. There is a illness in her family that requires her to be at home this evening. It is not a life-threatening thing, nor is it coronavirus, but she very much wanted to express her continued dedication to the town and willingness to work with the board and the town administrator. It's just that that family situation required
Right.
her to be at home this evening. So,
Right. If I could just jump in for 1 minute. Sarah Wilkinson, as well, I meant to say this at the beginning of the meeting, had to fly unexpectedly to Florida to take care of a medical emergency in their family. I did speak with her this afternoon, and she will be updated, of course, on what's going on, but she's sorry that she cannot be here.
We wish her well.
Yes, thank you.
and Ann Margaret was very eager to return to the table with me, so hopefully in the near future that'll be able to happen. And again, she's caring for a relative, so, but should be back soon.
Good. Look forward to it.
All right.
So we want to talk a little bit about the virus and so the state response, but let's start with the 128, 127,
Sure.
excuse me. And what if there's an update for the Board of Selectmen regarding where it stands, where we hope it may go, just a little bit of a discussion.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to give you an update. I don't have a tremendous amount of information, but I can give you an overall sense of the situation, and my hope would be in doing that, we can all continue to work together to consider the options that are available to us with regard to Nugent Stretch, if I can call it that, as someone who's been calling it that for a very long time. So a number of months ago, the suggestion had come up through Selectman Campbell that we look at putting sidewalks on Nugent Stretch. And of course, because that's a state-numbered highway, we needed to involve the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. And to be honest, and I stand to be corrected, this is a subcomponent of a larger plan that had been presented to us at one time by Peter Beecham. And obviously, we all feel the loss of Peter. He was a great statesman on behalf of this community. And his larger plan had, in effect, been to try to make greater access available to the open spaces that are on, I guess would be the eastern side of Nugent Stretch, which are used informally now by many people in town for passive recreation. The idea was to maybe enhance that access and to link it with other trails in the community, which was a wonderful idea. It was also a very ambitious idea. The idea that came from that, a subcomponent of it, was that we ought to create safer pedestrian access on Nugent Stretch for two reasons. Number one, folks may wish to access things just over the line in Gloucester. There's a number of retail shops there and other things, and just for movement back and forth between the two towns. And also it may have the effect of improving access to those open spaces. And so the idea was brought forward, and we wanted to have a conversation about what that would entail. And so a meeting was held here with DOT and with Selectman Campbell, and we began the discussion about what that would entail. And I think it's fair to characterize it as being a fairly intensive kind of a project if it were to happen. And that's because they informed us at the outset that it wasn't as easy as merely paving some area, that there were a number of factors that were involved. And I'll try to go through just a couple of them to give you a feel for it. One would be drainage. If we're to construct something along the highway, we need to make sure that it accommodates proper drainage. And as many folks are familiar with, under the new federal mandate that was passed through to the states through something called MS4, we are required to increase the efficacy of our stormwater treatment so that any project of this nature that we would consider would require full consideration of stormwater and how to treat it. In addition to that, because we're talking about a roadway that is highly traveled, we would also want to make sure that there's no impact on pooling of water on the roadway so that we don't create an unsafe situation by trying to create safer pedestrian access. So that's an important issue. Second issue is layout and right-of-way. So if we look along the roadway, who owns the land adjacent to either side of the roadway? Now, it's not uncommon for Mass Highway or whoever's building a road to take, by eminent domain or otherwise, land on either side so that if something needs to change, then there's the availability of that land to do that. So one of the things that we have to explore is who owns that right-of-way on either side, and how could it be used? A third issue is which side of the road would the sidewalk be on? If it is on the side where the train at some points passes very close, is there adequate buffer between the tracks and pedestrians that might be walking on those sidewalks?
In the dark.
Exactly. And then,
Scare you.
in addition to that, there is the issue of cost. And obviously, this would not be an inexpensive project. The state does construct sidewalks. It generally has a very large contract that's done, my understanding is, on an annual basis to construct sidewalks. And oftentimes we're able to tap that contract for very short lengths of sidewalk, but not for lengths that are this large. So this would be a project probably unto itself, not something that's tagged onto an existing open contract. And that would require funds to come certainly from the state. And if the town were to choose to move forward with this, then the representative and I would work as hard as we could to get as much funding as possible. But it is also not an unlikely possibility that the town would be required to contribute something as, if nothing else, a sign of good faith and partnership that this is a priority for the town. And so all of those things need to be considered. To their credit, the folks from Mass DOT agreed to undertake the first level of inquiry. So they volunteered with existing resources to go and begin looking at the issues that I just described, to wit, many people have seen Mass DOT folks out staking the area, doing surveys. They've seen transits and other kind of things, so that we can get an exact understanding of the geometry that we're dealing with. And I personally think that is a wonderful benefit for them to provide us with, so that we can have some understanding of what we're dealing with. The results of those initial inquiries are not complete. Our hope is that when they are, that we would invite them to come and talk just as we are now, about everything we know. And that is my most important point tonight, and I know that the representative feels very strongly about this as well. This is not something that the legislative delegation or the Baker-Polito administration or the Mass DOT would want to impose on the town of Rockport. This very much has to be something that would be agreed to and actually requested by this body and, perhaps even town meeting, but at the very least by the folks that are duly elected and appointed to represent this community. It is your decision. We are here to facilitate the discussion, and once a decision is made, we are here to do everything within our power to pursue whatever decision is made. But this is a decision for this community.
Mhm.
And if the town is not interested for whatever reason, we will not continue to pursue it. So
Understand.
we are working to develop, again, much more information so that we can discuss this in an informed way. And as always, the representative and I very much appreciate the partnership that we have with you. And we appreciate the discussion that's happening. And we look forward very soon, again, to be able to give you much more information so that we can discuss together the viability and the feasibility of this
Right.
idea.
Right. Well, thank you, Senator. And before I open it up to questions, I recall I was, it had to have been about 25, maybe 20, 22 years ago. They put a sidewalk on Thatcher Road. Were you involved in that project at all?
Only tangentially.
Okay, it wasn't a state.
Not to my recollection.
Okay, because I do remember it stopped around Marmion Way, and then we
Right.
continued it to Cape Hedge. Yeah, so I wanted to compare how the projects would be, but since we don't have knowledge of that. Anyway, let's open it up to members of the board.
Please, go right
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, so one thing you didn't mention, Senator Tar, but I'm sure you meant to, was the vernal pools
Yes,
that are right on that road,
absolutely.
which would obviously be an area of great concern.
So my list was meant to be inclusive but not exhaustive. But absolutely,
Yeah.
environmental impacts will be very important to consider, not only because of the vernal pools, but also because of watershed issues
Yep.
on both sides of the roadway
Yeah.
and some environmentally sensitive areas on both sides of the
Right.
roadway.
Go ahead, Ruth. No, please.
Oh, no, my only question is, are there many state highways that have sidewalks? I don't think there are. And I would, I mean, if the town votes for it, that is one thing, but I see it almost opening up things for the Gloucester Crossing complex on both sides of the highway there. People are walking there on the side of the road. Are they gonna want, I mean, it's a fast lane, Nugent stretches and some of those places, and it just seems like it might be opening up a precedent that on Cape Ann would, I mean, certainly there's a lot more people who need to get up to those places that would benefit with a sidewalk, and we wouldn't want that. So I'm concerned that there aren't many other places that have 40-mile-an-hour traffic on either sides with a safe sidewalk.
So it's an important point, and I would say that all state highways are not equal.
Yeah.
So there are different categories of state highways. Again, there are, for instance, limited access highways.
Yeah.
There are state highways that are owned not by the state, but because they are numbered routes according to state government, there's a shared responsibility for that stretch of highway.
Yeah.
And then there are others that are owned purely by the state. So there is not a singular category of that.
Yeah.
But obviously pedestrian safety would be paramount
Yeah.
in this discussion.
Yeah.
None of us wants to build something that would magnetize the area for unsafe passage.
Yeah.
And so that clearly will be part of it. And in fact, I'm going to speculate for just a moment here, but it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility that as part of any undertaking of this nature, there might well need to be a traffic study to look at that.
Yeah.
So your point is well taken, but I am confident that if we look at other parts of Route 127 or Route 133, we would in fact find sidewalks.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on the nature of the state highway.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Campbell?
Please. First of all, thank you for your help, you and the representative. It really is appreciated. I'll start by saying that the public sentiment for this has been overwhelming on my end. People have reached out to me many, many, many times. Last night at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, one of the local business owners happened to mention it and was very much in favor of it. So that's a great thing to know that that support is there. First, to address kind of the safety side of it. When I worked in Lynn, I was on the Lynnway, and unfortunately, 2 people had died on the Lynnway by crossing the street because there was no crosswalk. So I called the DOT, and I wasn't a town official at the time. I just happened to be a John Q. citizen. And my question to them was, and this is not in the context of this project, so I want to keep them separate, was how many people have to die before something like that happens? Now, I'm not trying to be, hyperbolic about this, but I see people walking there all the time. So first and foremost, I see it as a safety issue. That's number one. Number two is, as you said, and I worked with Peter at the onset of that project, and I met with him quite a few times at his home, and we talked about the trail access and all of these things and how we could bring these things together. And you and I and Ann and others met with Peter here in this room and discussed it, and that was quite a while ago. So I'm glad to see that we're at least moving forward. I realize, and other people realize, that this project may not come to fruition. I get that. I'm just grateful that it's being explored. And if it's not done now, my hope is that that's not the case. But if it's not done now, that perhaps we've laid the groundwork, laid the sidewalk for the future, and we'd go from there. To address the point that Ruthie brought up, as far as other towns that do things, I would give Danvers and Route 62 as a great example of that, in the railbed project there, and how they have incorporated features like that into their town and how they cross over major thoroughfares and highways. Route 62 is a state highway. So it can be done. It's just a matter of how it gets done. So that's that. As far as what is going forward from here, as you have been, I've been talking to Dan Fielding from the DOT. And some of the things, and I'm not going to get into them, just a few of the things, are going to be right-of-way, utility location, side slopes, topography. Those are the first things to look at going forward. And then once those are defined and we see how that is going to impact the project as a whole, then I believe, I don't know, I could be wrong, that kind of dictates the feasibility of the project moving forward, because now you can start to get a better idea of cost and scope of project to figure out where it's going to go. Then after that comes the design options. Is it a sidewalk all the way down one side? Does it go down one side and then switch over and then go to the other side? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. So this is just beginning. And again, I thank you for your assistance with this, and I look forward to moving it forward potentially. But this is by no means a done deal. And I want to work in conjunction with the board, with the folks in town, to bring this to a thoughtful conclusion, whether that be a yay or a nay. But again, thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I would just respond in kind and say thank you for the partnership and the collaboration. I also want to point out that Mitch has been an integral part of this conversation and needs to continue to be on behalf of the town, and we look forward to working through him and having more conversation of the nature that we've had. I think it's fair to say, Don, that this is perhaps a much larger project than maybe we originally thought when we first started discussing it. And Mr. Chairman, if I can offer just, it may be an imperfect analogy, but if I can offer you an example of where a project like this was successful. We're all familiar with the bridge that carries Route 127 over Goose Cove. And the fact that up until, well, it's been a number of years ago now, but there was a point where there was no pedestrian access over that bridge. And as a consequence, we had the tragic loss of a young life
I remember that.
at the bridge. And Representative Ferranti was not in office at that time, but I was. And we rolled up our sleeves and worked with the city, because there were some rights-of-way and other easements that we had to accomplish. And the bridge now has a pedestrian walkway that cantilevers off the side that was paid for by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So there's an example of a state-numbered highway where there was a serious threat to pedestrian safety, and we did something rather unusual by building that cantilevered access. So it's not impossible, but as Selectman Campbell rightly points out, we have a long, long way to go and a lot to consider. And we will do our best to give you every piece of information, again, so that an informed, intelligent decision can be made. And whatever that decision is, we will support you collectively in pursuing whatever option you choose. Now, I will just say as a final thought on this subject, it may be that we decide that maybe this isn't the project, but maybe there are other places where we'd like to improve access and trails and other things, as Don and Peter and I and Representative Ferranti once talked about. And there are other ways to do that. There may be other sources of funding. There may be other things. So it may not be that this is the only project that accomplishes the goal of improving accessibility and safety either, but let's find out together.
Well,
Thank you.
And you'll obviously be in contact with Mitch
Yep.
as the process goes. And Mitch, you'll update all of us. Do you have any initial comments regarding this? I know it's its infancy.
I know it's been going through the process, so we can, this conversation, we followed up on those. It's down to the finish something now and seeing where it goes.
So I would say, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, that we would anticipate that soon there would be an initial sort of packet of information, and that's when we'd like to be able to reach out to Mitch and to the chair and say, let's get together
Yep.
and let's have this conversation.
Okay.
Our preference would be, on behalf of the legislative delegation, to be able to come to a forum like this and have DOT present all of that, so we all hear the same thing
Sure.
at the
Right.
same time.
Great.
Yep, perfect.
Perfect.
And I know that, that it's, from the email correspondence I've had with DOT, that they're looking, as of the end of February, they're looking at about a 6-week, they said 4 to 6, let's be generous, let's go even 8 to 10 if we have to, for a time frame of when they will have those survey results done, all the topography done, all the things done. So the survey side of it should be done, within the next month or so, let's call it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
What I would like to do now, since we have our state senator, and maybe that could go into a discussion with the town moderator as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if we could do that, Moderator Visnick.
And but before we go to Mr. Visnick, could you just give us an update as of 7 o'clock today,
Sure.
what the state's response is regarding this virus?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll do the best that I can
Sure, no.
with an understanding that it's a very fluid situation.
It certainly is.
Having left a meeting here this afternoon, I went to the State House to be part of a press conference with the governor and Health and Human Service Secretary Mary Lou Sutters and Public Health Commissioner Monica Burrell and other members of the administration. At that press conference, the governor declared a state of emergency, and I want to stress that that is a controlled mechanism which has been used in many instances. It is not extraordinary, and it should not trigger alarm or panic.
That's very important. It's very important people hear that.
And I would point out that states of emergency are not uncommon. The last one that I was involved in, to my recollection, was when we had the Merrimack Valley gas explosions.
Oh, sure.
As many people know, I represent one half of the town of North Andover. And so I was on that scene as well, and a state of emergency was declared. And the reason a state of emergency is declared is that it facilitates more expedient action in instances where logistics, for instance, could be very important. So, for instance, if the governor needs to requisition the use of some buildings or facilities, or needs to direct state resources in a particular way, it helps to move through the bureaucracy and expedite those things. But it does not give the governor the kind of power to override a lot of law and statute. So I think that's important to understand. It's a tool that has been used by many governors very judiciously. And what's happening here is the governor, and I wouldn't presume to put words in his mouth, but try to be faithful to what he said this afternoon, is seeking to make sure that if we need to scale up the response here, as we might, then things can happen more quickly than they otherwise would happen. Now, Underneath that declaration of emergency, there will be directives emanating from the administration. And again, I don't mean this to be an exhaustive list, but I will try to give you a feel for it. So, employees of the executive branch will be prohibited from traveling domestically and internationally for some period of time. There will be various expedited efforts at testing. So one of the things that I think folks would be very interested in is currently in Massachusetts, testing can only occur through the state laboratory. Obviously, if the need for more testing scales up, then we will need to make more resources available. A state of emergency will allow the governor to move those resources.
Right.
We may need to provide them, and I would just say tangentially, the House and the Senate in the next several days will take up a $15 million emergency appropriation so that a reserve fund will be ready for those kind of things. So the governor will also try to facilitate more work using technology rather than meetings. However, hearings that are needed to take place administratively will continue, and other executive functions will continue, but there'll be an effort to try to make more use of technology to allow people to do things remotely. And again, there were a number of things that the governor cited today. Other things include trying to discourage large meetings from happening unless they are absolutely necessary. As an avid sports fan, Mr. Chairman, I know you would be interested in knowing that the fact of sports competitions came up, and the governor stopped short of mandating that they not happen, but rather left those decisions to the folks that are operating those sporting competitions for right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that can change.
It absolutely can
Okay.
change. So what happened as a result of the declaration of the state of emergency were some very hard and fast rules, particularly as the executive branch will operate, but also a lot of guidance. And there was a lot of discussion this afternoon about vulnerable populations, the most notable being people over the age of 60 years old, and whether or not they should attend various kinds of meetings and functions and things of that nature. My understanding is that sometime this evening we will receive much more information about the contours of this declaration of emergency, and it is our intent to provide that to all of our municipalities as soon as we have it. It may be tonight, it may be tomorrow morning. With regard to the situation, and I was looking at some notes here, which you know I generally don't use, but I want to be accurate. So there was reported 51 new positive cases, bringing the total of presumed or confirmed cases in Massachusetts to 92. Now, there's an interesting use of terminology here that I think it's helpful for all of us to understand. We hear in the news that there are presumed positive cases, and we hear confirmed. And the difference is that unless a CDC lab is doing the test, it is not confirmed. But Commissioner Burrell made it very clear that there is tremendous confidence in the tests that are being done by state government, and that a presumed case should be presumed to be a positive case. So that is the state of affairs that we have right now. I think the other important, couple of important points. Number one, a critical issue is the amount of test kits available. And currently, our state laboratory has a sufficient number to continue on the path that it's been on. Mm-hmm. However, more have been requested, and they are in the process of coming to Massachusetts. Along the same lines, there is equipment relative to the personal protection of healthcare providers that is critical. Masks, eye protection, gowns, gloves. Currently, there's an adequate supply of those, but there is also, and I wasn't aware of this until today, a strategic stockpile of those things. The request has been made through the Federal Emergency Management Agency by our Mass Emergency Management Agency for additional resources from that stockpile. They are on the way. In addition to that, our Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency has stood up an emergency center to deal with this situation, so that hopefully that can be a clearinghouse for additional information. There is particular concern about a situation that has arisen in the Berkshires, where it appears that there may be community spread of the virus as opposed to individualized spread. So MEMA is responding to the Berkshires, and if we were to experience something similar, there would be a response here. I think the best way to describe this, and I was able to speak to a number of media outlets this afternoon about this, is that the situation is under control. We have to lay the foundation now for additional further action, and that action needs to be scalable, depends on the facts and circumstances that we face. We have to take this very seriously, but we should not be panicked, and we should understand that common sense and some very practical things and good information right now are the best things that we have to combat the spread.
Right.
I think it's fair to say that, and I believe it was either Commissioner Burrell or Secretary Sutters said this, that we are now not talking about a situation where we're going to stop this from occurring. What we need to do is try to reduce the occurrence and contain it as best we can. So that is the best information that I have.
Right.
And we will be in our office, and I'm sure the representative will be doing the same, in the next couple of days, standing up more capability to push more information out
Right.
to you
Right.
as well.
Right.
There will be MEMA conference calls, for instance, starting tomorrow. And we will get information to Mitch. That information may also flow to the police chief and the fire chief simultaneously. But in this case, we would rather be redundant than not have anyone
Absolutely.
have information at all.
Right.
So we will
Absolutely.
get information out about those MEMA calls. Now to more squarely focus the conversation, a number of us have been concerned about town meeting. And I want to give credit to Mitch and to the town moderator, who, generally has a wonderful time introducing me in creative ways at town meeting. And I'll resist the temptation to do that here tonight. But we had a very good conversation that the representative was part of remotely today about town meeting. And along those lines, there's a couple of important pieces of information. Number one, Kopelman and Page is developing guidance under the auspices of the Mass Municipal Association
Excellent.
about town meeting. That information is expected to be available tomorrow. Number two, again, MEMA may have something to say about that as well. And number three, I think, we really need to think collectively, and this is your decision, but we need to weigh making sure that we protect public safety with other considerations, like making sure everyone who wants to participate in a full and fair discussion at town meeting has that opportunity. And I'm thinking specifically about the fact that currently there may be some folks who would be encouraged not to attend a large public gathering, whom we would not want to exclude from the discussion at town meeting. So I think we need to consider those things carefully.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And again, this is a situation where this is not the decision for the legislative delegation to make. It is one for the town officials to collectively make, but one in which we will partner with you, and we will do everything possible, as we would with the remainder of this situation, but specifically with town meeting, we will partner with you to get the most fair and safe result for the people of the town.
Right. Well, thank you, Bruce. And thank you for the response from the state. And I know you'll stay in touch with Mitch, and we'll get all the information out to us, and we'll get it out to the community. But it sounds like the state is 100% right on target. I'm really impressed. So
Thank you.
that segues into our discussion about town meeting, which was supposed to, or is slated to begin on the 4th of April at 9 a.m. with Mr. Moderator at the helm. And I think we need to have a frank discussion. I think everyone probably would know where we're going to go with this because of the seriousness of the issue. So
A little closer to your microphone, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sure. At this point, I'd like to introduce our town administrator, town moderator, Bob Visnick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Senator Tarr, members of the public. We have been, Senator Tarr and I guess the best way to introduce him is a friend of mine and a true and wonderful friend to this community for a long time.
Long time.
So we're very fortunate indeed to have him in our corner. So we have been having discussions over the last several days about what we would anticipate from guidance from the state, from the Department of Public Health, from the Department of Revenue, and from the legislature in terms of if we had to push back town meeting. Events are unfolding very quickly. We met around lunch today to discuss these, and at that time it was my intent, and I penned a quick letter to the Board of Selectmen to push back town meeting, and I gave that a date that may or may not be the date, but it's a date approximately 30 days from now. And the hope would be that at that time, the outbreak would, we would understand it further, we would know its scope, we would have further guidance from the
Yeah,
legislature in terms
exactly.
of what we would need for this. Of course, there's a cascading series of events that flow from town meeting in terms of developing a budget and getting free cash and all of those things. And so, of course, our legislators are on top of that, as is the government in general. We are one of the first communities, I think, to have a spring town meeting, as it falls early in April. So there is time to push this back, and public safety, of course, is the most important thing. And we do have an older community. To force everybody into an auditorium or even the gymnasium early in April may not be a wise course of action, and so it's my intent to push this back and to learn from the conferences that will be held tomorrow in the next several days, and revisit this issue and come up with a date certain,
Right.
and then move forward towards that.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
If I can just add one more dimension to this. A few years ago, I actually worked to and authored changes to the statute which actually give the moderator the power to unilaterally, in the case of an emergency, postpone town meeting. To his credit, our town moderator is taking, I think, a much more proactive approach than waiting for the emergency to unfold. But part of the requirements that we put into the statute was consultation with people like the police and the fire chief and the town administrator before even that emergency decision could be made. But I just want to point out that Bob has done an amazing amount of due diligence in having those consultative conversations. And it's important from my perspective, and I stand to be corrected by either Mitch or Bob, that what you are able to do is actually not depend on that unilateral emergency power, that because of the scheduling luxury that you have, and I hesitate to call it a luxury, but you have enough ramp here to be able to make a decision like this without impacting other things that we would be otherwise be concerned about, to wit, the setting of a tax rate, certification of free cash, a whole host of things that appear to be still safely within the bounds of what's being discussed. So a lot of work has gone into Bob's presentation tonight and his presentation of an option for your consideration. Again, it's your decision, but I just wanted you to know there's been a lot of consultation around this, and If we get to a situation in the future where the problem persists, the moderator does have, within a set of boundaries, the ability to, on an emergency basis,
Right.
further postpone
Right.
the meeting.
Right. And the plan this evening is for the Board of Selectmen to take a vote on this, correct?
So not necessarily a vote this evening, but more of a consensus that we will not be moving forward with April
Yep,
4th.
perfect.
And
Yep.
that will work
everyone's-
in consultation with the appropriate parties, especially the moderator, to select a date in May. And again, certainly the election has to be a certain time after that. So what you have in front of you this evening with this letter is essentially
Right.
in compliance with the bylaw, where the moderator indicates to you a recommendation for a different date.
Okay, good.
So just getting things started. So what you would have done tonight, had we proceeded normally, was approve a warrant to move forward. That won't be the case now, so we'll look to do it in May. We've got a little bit more lead time. And we're in close contact. In fact, in a couple of minutes, a couple of us need to step out to go to the Board of Health to continue the discussion with them. But we're appreciative of the foresight on this and the assistance from the senator and the representative, and appreciative of the moderator raising this issue with us early to
Okay.
make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, good.
So we simply won't issue the warrant for the meeting at this point until we hammer down an exact date based on the recommendation of the moderator. So we have the luxury at the moment of time, so we're in full compliance with the bylaws, and this is really step one for something like that. But really to start the public pronouncement of town meeting will not be April 4th.
Okay, and speaking of that, and I certainly want to hear from other members of the Board of Selectmen, how, if, it sounds like everyone's in agreement in this up here, that we postpone town meeting, how are we going to get that out,
So-
besides the Gloucester Times? And-
Sure, so we'll issue an appropriate press release on the matter. We will
Okay.
start a social media campaign of going to redirect the efforts of some folks
Excellent.
that we have to focus on outreach and making sure that in general, the notice for town meeting is, that it won't be the 4th, and certainly other helpful information for them on this topic. So
Yeah.
we'll work collaboratively to make sure the message is clear, and once the board sets the new date, what will need to happen with that, and the moderator, I believe, will have some additional
Okay.
items that I think are indicated in your letter about the certain articles as well.
Code
Okay.
red.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, there were two other aspects of this, I guess, worth noting. And one is that whatever date we set, unless this, this issue has totally resolved itself, we would try to keep whatever meeting we had to the shortest possible time. And so we would look to address only those items that absolutely needed to be addressed in the spring
Makes
to
sense.
set a budget and,
Yep.
and things of that nature. And then we would postpone other articles to another time
Okay.
where, where we could safely address them. And then secondly, we talked about using this time wisely, and, if we have time to have meetings and bring in the local cable company, and for example, more time for the school department to talk about the budget and the need for an override, and do that without large crowds, but try to, get that word out and give the opportunity for, for a further discussion, so that when we have our meeting,
Right.
the public will have more information than they might already have.
That's excellent.
And maybe that could, shorten some of the discussion at a meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And
Other
I'm-
members, Ruth?
Just a quick question. So you mentioned it would affect the voting. How many weeks later is the spring election?
Four?
Is it
Fi-
4 weeks?
Five weeks, the 5th Tuesday after.
Okay.
And there's a
Mr.
time.
Campbell?
Yeah, well, there's a few. There's a time. There are time requirements. We actually had a little problem with that, like last year, the year before, with the time in between. Wasn't that correct?
So I believe there was an
Let's-
issue with notice up front.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a separate issue. In this case,
Okay,
we have
but
more
it
than
wasn't
enough.
related. I thought it was the time between town meeting and the election. That had nothing to do with it.
I don't know that that was
I don't
the
think it was
last
a
time.
problem. I think we had that discussion.
Yeah.
And it's part of our discussion today. There may be some relief in some of those areas if all of the communities in Massachusetts can't or don't hold their town meetings when they're scheduled. That's going to, cause some other issues at the other end. And and we're letting our legislators know that's something that we might want them to discuss and maybe give us some relief so that we could, for example, start a year with a budget, month by month or other things until we have the opportunity to have a meeting and to vote on overrides and do all the things we need to do.
That kind of ties in, I'm sorry.
Can I
if
just
Oh, yeah, please.
interrupt for 1 minute?
Yeah, please.
We have our superintendent of schools. Rob, do you have anything before you leave? You
Just ask about 2 dates, and okay, anything else, we'll just
okay? And we'll obviously be working very closely with the schools. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah. I'll be right behind you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Don.
No,
Thank you.
that's quite all right. My sincere hope is that we're at the peak of this right now and that we'll be on the decline.
Let's hope so.
I don't think so.
But in a worst-case scenario, based upon the needs of the town, meaning the spring meeting is always a budgetary meeting and things get approved, how far out can we, assuming, and again, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but how far out can we push this if we're not at the peak of this and if we're just climbing and we have to go, how far out can we actually push this? And in the interim of that, I think you just addressed it partially. Are there incremental steps we can take to make sure that town government still functions orderly without that meeting occurring?
I don't have those dates calendared, but my perhaps educated guess would be that if it were so bad that we couldn't have a meeting through the end of May, that we would be leaning very heavily on the legislators to come up with something that would, keep us running until such time as it was safe to have a meeting and to do all the things that we need to do.
Agreed with the moderator. The big piece that affects it this time around is really the election. And if that tips itself past June 30th, that presents a problem.
Yeah.
So we would certainly be looking to work with our delegation to seek some relief there.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, I think thank you, Bob, for starting this process and for your, for doing this so much in advance. I think the main concern that we all have is the health and safety of the entire population, but especially those over 80, where the mortality rate of this virus is very high. So I think it's really wise that we look to postpone town meeting until we see what happens, how this unfolds.
And of course, I'm often asked about having virtual meetings and people voting from, their homes. And we're many years away from that. And, there are certainly concerns that we haven't had about the safety of voting. But, we certainly had that discussion a little bit today, and maybe, events like this are things that move that technology further along.
Yeah. We got some time, but we have time on our hands.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I would offer, from my perspective, the important date ultimately will be the start of the fiscal year on July 1st.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we're not able to meet that with a budget in place,
If-
through, again, the foresight of the moderator, we've started to have discussions about what we might need to do legislatively, and what the governor might need to do administratively to give more flexibility so that those budgets can be put in place. Because again, the two of the things, and I'm not an expert in municipal finance, but two that I'm always worried about are being able to certify free cash and being able to set the tax rate. And so if we can't get those submissions done to DOR in time, that will present a problem. But again, the good news is we have time, and we have, again, we initiated what amounts to a statewide discussion as a result of the inquiries of your moderator to see what tools we might need to think about if we get to that point.
perfect. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the Board of Selectmen?
No.
Rich, anything?
No, Mr. I just need to let you know that I need to step out to go to the Board of Health meeting. Finance
you be
director
coming
is
back?
here. I'm hoping to, but the finance director is here in my stead and will be working with the board in my absence.
Good.
And I just.
And I'll be here for official representation business at 8 p.m., give
for
or
the
take a
hearing.
minute or two.
Perfect. Okay, good. Thank you. And again, in closing, Just so people know, the town will make sure that we get out information as quickly and as accurately and at different venues to hit as many people as possible with any updates. I would suggest that people, stay updated in the news and the radio and online to get their latest information. But please know that the town of Rockport and obviously the Commonwealth are taking this extremely
Right.
serious.
Yep.
So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you think we could go to the action list 2 and 3, so I can leave to go to Board of Health too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're going to move the agenda a little bit on our action list. The approval of owner's project manager contract with the City Point Partners.
Can I make a
Yes.
discussion about that? Hi, my name is Ruth George, and I am also the chairperson of the DPW Building Committee. So we will be hopefully getting a contract approved with City Point Partners tonight, and also an addendum and continuation with our contract with Weston and Sampson for the architectural services and design of the new DPW facility. We met last week as a DPW committee. We were very concerned about costs, and we wanted to make sure that we did have City Point Partners come in with pretty much time and expense. We didn't want to have a large amount for them and not be able to rein them in and kind of look at it all the time and see where they were and keep track of things. So the contract did go to Copeland and Page. They had some language changes. They couldn't really call it time and expenses, but they changed the wording. So the wording has changed in the contract, but it is essentially the same thing. It's broken down into phases, and each phase has a cost estimate or a cost amount, and what's not used there can be carried on to other phases for other things. So I reviewed it, and we had multiple conference calls with Mitch, Joe from DPW, Copeland and Page, City Point Partners, and also Weston and Sampson. So we feel pretty confident with our contracts that we're going to propose tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the members of the Board of Selectmen want to address that issue?
No,
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for all the work that you folks are putting into this. I mean, it was a project a long time coming, and it's finally taking on some legs, and it's moving
Yep.
forward, so thank you.
Thank you to Dan and Monica, who were here also.
Dan and Monica, that's right. Thank
Not-
you.
And Dan.
Not to be negative, but there's still people in town that are
Oh, yeah.
angry about it, and I'm like, you should go up there and see what they're working in,
Yep,
the men
absolutely.
and women
Yep.
up there, and you'll see why, for safety reasons, number one,
Yep.
they need that project. So,
Yep.
again, thank you for everyone for your hard work, especially the committee that's working very hard. Is there a motion?
There is. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign an agreement with City Point Partners LLC of 11 Elkins Street, Suite 470, Boston, Mass., for owner's project management services for new Department of Public Works facility in the amount not to exceed $304,000.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. Very good. And you want to do 3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, approval of contract amendment for design services, Weston and Sampson.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign an amendment to the agreement with Weston and Sampson CMR, Inc. of 5 Centennial Drive, Peabody, Mass. in the amount of $825,000.
Is
Second.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0.
I'm going to Board of Health since I'm the liaison on
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
And will you be joining us?
I will come back
Yeah.
as soon as that's over.
We might be over, but you never know. Why don't we continue in the last item on the action list, approval and sign annual town meeting warrant?
We're not, that's
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah, we're gonna have to, let's wait
that's
for
not
Mitch.
coming up,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Want to go to liaison reports?
Sure, we can do the consent agenda.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do the consent agenda
Because
first.
I'd like to make some edits to the minutes, so I'd like to hold
Sure.
that.
Yep.
And the edit is, Eileen, on page 34, I guess, in this packet, page 3 of the minutes. This was at the meeting on the fueling station, and it says, Denise, Select Person Donnelly said 5 to 10 years in the future. She can't see the town operating it, but the town would benefit from it. I don't think I said the town would benefit from it. If I did, I didn't mean that. So you can just end it, she can't see the town operating it, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Nope.
John, you good?
Actually, I was looking for some notes. I apologize to have
We
my
can go-
back to everybody.
We can come back. We can come back if you.
You know what? I'm just going to give it a cursory because we'll breeze through this. So this will be
Okay.
good. Yesterday, Mitch and I attended the Rockport Division, Rockport Chamber of Commerce Division meeting at the Inn and Suites, and there are quite a few things going on. They're going to be having, they'll have a new facility pretty soon.
I think we might have to wait for her.
Oh, yeah, we don't have a quorum
We don't
anymore.
have a quorum. So
We have to wait?
You need a quorum.
I think we have
You
to
need a
wait.
quorum.
Yes, we gotta wait.
You stepped into those shoes nicely, Carrie.
Yeah.
Good job.
So how's
So
everyone?
we'll take a break in the action.
Okay, let's continue, and thank you, everyone, for that minor break.
You don't need it in the future. This is a one-and-done thing.
Yeah.
I'm good. I found what I was
Oh,
looking
oh,
for.
oh, sure,
If you don't mind. I just think it's important because Monica was there yesterday and saw these things, and there's a lot of good things that they have going on right now. They have a blue economy initiative. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on these things, but I'm going to just kind of go over in a cursory way for what they covered. A blue economy, which is all maritime-related things to bring maritime industry and really kind of fine-tune what's going on in that industry. Cape Ann Caucus is going to happen pretty soon. That's the collaborative. Some of us have been there. I think Denise has been there. I think you've been there too. Where you get together with chiefs of police, school committees, fire chiefs, town officials, and it's just kind of a roundtable in Essex County, and everybody talks about their ideas and what's going on. Obviously, you know what the hot topic's going to be so far. There's a career fair coming up at Gloucester High, which is open to everybody. That's a great thing for our students here in town, and Gloucester, of course, and even adults can attend too. It'd be a great thing. The Chamber of Commerce, as I said, is going to be relocating. They're coming out of their building that's down by the Boatport, and they're going to be moving down across from the Walgreens Plaza. They're excited about that. There's going to be some public meeting space there. The town officials that
It's where the ice cream place used to be?
right where the whale watch, where
Okay.
where the
Good,
parking lot is right there. Yeah, they're going to be right there. And they're going to have, like I said, public meeting spaces that people can partake in and use it. It's going to be a great resource to be down there. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that kind of covers it. There are some other things going on, but that's kind of just a real brief overview of what's going on.
Great, great. Denise, do you have anything? Okay. All right, well, let's continue on with the town administrator is obviously not here. We have liaison reports, the consent agenda. You want to, is there a motion?
Is that mine? Let's see.
Well, we have to vote on the minutes separately because I changed them, right?
Right, exactly. So you want to make a motion? on
I
the-
move that we approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting of February 25th, 2020 as amended.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. The motion passes 3-0. Let's do the consent agenda, please.
Yep,
Is there a
I move
motion?
that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
Okay. If you're
Second.
Second, moved and second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, 0. The motion passes 3-0. We are going to have to take, unless we have some unanticipated business or announcement, the public hearing regarding the alcohol license for C and Cellar doesn't begin until 8 o'clock.
23 minutes from now.
Yeah, so, do any of you have anything, or do you want to take a quick recess? And unless anyone.
Yeah, right.
Right?
No. So, is there a motion to take a 23-minute recess?
I don't think we need a motion, but if you want it,
Yeah,
so
just
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye, and we
Aye.
will
Aye.
Passes 3-0. We will reconvene right at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
For C and Cellar.
I gotta find my
I can, hold on.
advertisement, sorry. Come out.
Here you go.
Do you get it?
Yep.
I'd like to read into the record the Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen public hearing Tuesday, March 10th, 2020, 8 p.m., Rockport Town Office Building, Conference Room A, to discuss the application for C and Cellar LLC, DBA C and Cellar, 21 Dock Square, number 3, for an annual license to sell wine and malt beverages. And
Got it?
malt beverages in a gourmet specialty food store. And this was signed by me, Paul F. Murphy, Chairman of the Rockport Board of Selectmen. It was in the Gloucester Times on February 20th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Would that be me?
It would be Sarah.
It would be Sarah. Do you want to take it?
Sure. I move that the Board of Selectmen open a public hearing on the application of C and Cellar LLC for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at a gourmet specialty store.
Second, we need to roll call vote. Selectman Campbell?
Aye.
Selectman Murphy, aye. And Selectman Donnelly.
Aye.
And the motion passes 3-0. Well, this is going to be fun to talk about something different.
Other than the coronavirus.
Yeah, something should be upbeat.
Coronavirus, they're completely separate issues.
Yeah.
Corona and alcohol licenses.
Yeah.
Right? Completely separate.
Very good.
Microphone.
Is everyone on?
I'm on, yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Visnick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Once again, I am still Bob Visnick, an attorney with offices at 45 Broadway here in Rockport.
You and Chevy
And
Chase.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you John and Lindsay Porter, who are applying for the specialty craft license, the second specialty craft license for C and Cellar LLC. And that's a lot of S's to try to say, but I'll do my best. And John and Lindsay represent the future of our community. You know, they're young, they're energetic. John has been trained by, I would say, the best business people in this community. And we were reminiscing before the meeting about when I came before this board several years ago, when, you know, their parents, Ken and Karen Porter, came before you for one of the first alcohol licenses, and they've done a tremendous job there, and these young people are going to lead us into the future with their
No
craft
pressure.
store. And so we've been working very closely with your office as we've been developing their application. As you know, this is new to all of us, and so we have been developing things as we go along, but I believe that their application is complete and their application is detailed, and if I may, I will bring them up to the podium to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, before we open it up to questions and so forth, I just want to state that all the application stuff has been brought into the town administrator's office. This will be one of the first wine and cheese establishments. They're under a total different license than what Jay Smith has at Whistle Stop Mall.
Actually, if I may interject, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
It's actually the same process used for both Whistle Stop Mall and Lane's Farm. So
Yeah, but the license is different. Yep, the process will
Correct.
be the exact same.
Correct.
The town administrator will have to do the final checkoff, police chief will have to come, and all those things. So they'll be held to the same standard as anyone else has with a liquor license, although it is a different liquor license. It's not under the same one. So
That's correct. And I've brought in, or my office has brought in several of the certified mail receipts. I have some others and some have not yet been returned to us, but, we have the outgoings for you, if I may present them.
Please.
Okay, Lucy. Thank you.
And so if I may, Lindsay and John.
Please join us. You can sit. If you'd rather sit, it's a little comfortable. Don't be nervous.
Hi.
Hi, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the time to come in, and this is very exciting. I've seen some of the construction as I've been walking my dogs by, looking in the window, so that sounded a little creepy.
You're leaving the smudge marks.
Yeah, but it's exciting how things are unfolding, and I was wondering if you might just give an overview. Nothing, you don't have to go in great detail. Some of the things that you are hoping to accomplish there, the hours, the products, and
Sure.
just your vision for what it's going to look like.
Sure. Is this fine, or do I need to?
Yeah, why don't you pull it in a little bit?
Is this better?
Yeah.
So we are Sea and Cellar. We are going to be a specialty food store, which includes artisan cheeses, fresh baked breads, pastries. Then we're going to move into like crackers and dry goods like that. We are on our food aspect. We are going to be prepackaged all of our items. We do not have the space to be any type of deli or prepared foods. So it's going to be all prepackaged, mostly to-go foods to eat, picnic style, if you will. And we feel very strongly about our natural wine that we'll be offering. We're going to be doing 100% natural wine, organic to define that. That's low intervention, small vineyards, no additives, very to little sulfur, caring about the process in the vineyard and also in the cellar. And to follow up with that beer as well, we're going to be doing mostly local New England craft beers, and then a little craft beer outside of New England. To cater to other needs. And our hours, wanted to ask you a question. We don't know when we're legally supposed to be open, but we did a broad range of between like 10:30, 11-ish open till 8 o'clock at the latest.
Okay.
And to go back on our products, we are really focused on kind of this model of being a farmers market in a set spot, open all the time. We're working with vendors in local farmers markets to bring their products to my store, working with local fresh bread bakers. We're collaborating with a new local chef who just moved into town and is looking to do catering type or to-go style meals, and just kind of working our ideas with who's local and what we can do there. So we're really excited about that.
And keeping it rotating also.
Yep,
Keeping
it
everything
rotating.
so it's fresh and new ideas out so people can actually try.
Yep. Keeping
new
in touch with the
products.
seasons.
Mhm.
Is if you want to be local, you have to be in touch with the seasons. And we're also looking to move Roy Morris fish aspect down there into the winter so that you can be able to get fresh fish down there.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Not lobsters, just fish.
There'd be lobsters here. It would be pretty
It-
much like a set schedule, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesdays.
I don't know if we'll be able to have lobster, but
lobster
we could have
meat.
lobster meat
Lobster, okay.
as far as the prepackaged
Great.
allows.
But everything else, oysters and things like that.
They'd probably be ordered because
Yeah.
everything has to be packaged.
it'll be in winter,
It has
yeah.
to, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So, well,
more
yeah,
just
we
like
can
fish
figure out
ready to
the
go and
logistics of
scalloped.
that, yeah.
Oh, it would already be packaged?
It'd
wouldn't-
just be in it'd
Like
just have to be in like
cryovac
Okay.
in like plastic containers
Yeah.
almost.
But it would be coming from...
It'd be coming from the shop.
Roy Moore.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just can't be prepared on
on
site.
site.
That's right,
Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, we've talked to the Board of Health, and to prepare anything on site, you need 5 sinks, and we just don't have the room for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
good.
Yeah, so, yeah. We've talked to our distributors. We have everything in line. We're just waiting for the license so that we can put our orders in.
We've already
and,
talked to police, fire,
Yep.
Board of Health.
We are just finishing up our renovations, so all of that should be scheduled for inspection within the next 2 weeks.
And you're hoping for a May 1st?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just seeing how
opening.
long
Yeah,
That's
depending
great.
on when we
the
get the
state
license.
takes.
We're gonna get bread from A&J King.
We are. And some of their pastries,
Still my heart.
hopefully.
And some of their pastries
Some of their
too.
pastries that they sell in Salem, hopefully too.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm so excited.
And I don't know if you've heard of Kim Pure Pastry. She does farmers markets in Gloucester, and she does like Pop-Tarts and all sorts of crazy cool stuff that she does from her own local garden.
Wow.
So it's, yeah, we're very excited about our products.
Great. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's exciting. Any members of the Board of Selectmen want to
I got
chime
my
in?
answer.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I got to tell you, it's fun. You know, it's fun because you can get on there and it sounds like you can take, you can walk in, you can fill a basket up of, you know, a picnic basket and then head to the beach and go somewhere. It's just, it's so needed here. Things like this enhance the quality of life here for the people here, which hopefully will support this business year round because I think it's fantastic. And for the folks that come and visit us, to be able to get something and just get something to snack on or what have you, I think it's tremendous. Thank you for doing this. It's great. Thank
We
you.
saw the push. I mean, we've seen it for both of us being in the restaurant and like
We've seen the
retail
demand for
issues.
it.
We've seen the demand for
Yeah.
it. So
I mean, everything is about, to me, it's about identifying a need and then filling that need.
Exactly.
And you've done that. So, you know, it's really, things are starting, the right businesses are coming along. I mean, you can have so many shops of whatever nature, I'm not going to pick on any one genre. But when you see the right shops come along, you go, yeah, that's going to have a big impact. And I think your shop will have that impact.
thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight, we mentioned Peter Beecham earlier during a discussion about the sidewalk out on Nugent Stretch and his visions. He was a great Rockport resident, but wouldn't he be thrilled to be
Oh, my
in the
goodness.
audience right now? I'm sure he would have chimed in on some aspect that all of us all missed.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to grab that. So
I thought it
that's
was great
exciting.
at Peter's at Peter's memorial service. His gift to everybody, as we were all saying goodbye, was a little bottle of Grey Goose,
Amazing.
you know, which I thought was completely appropriate. It was
That is very,
fantastic.
yep.
So yeah, it was great.
Sorry,
still have
just
that.
something I forgot to say.
Sure.
We are also going to have non-alcoholic drinks available.
Great.
It's like kombucha. We're working with Pigeon Cove Ferments to
great.
provide their kombucha,
Yeah.
waters, and etc.
What about Twin Lights? Have you looked at Twin Lights and
It's a
So
bottling issue.
so
Is
we
it?
have.
They don't
That'll-
have enough bottles.
Well, we've been looking into it.
We're-
I've been
yeah,
doing a
we-
little
We
research.
would love
so.
to collaborate with them, so we're working.
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge
On a
staple. in
future, yeah.
Rockport.
The thing about that is, I think we're gonna have, if that works, I think we'd have to do a bottle drive to get all the bottles. Like, because I mean, I'm guessing everyone here probably has one or two.
I don't.
around. Yeah.
None.
Because the issue they're having is they don't have enough bottles to do a run, and they don't. The machine that he has,
It's specific
it's
to
a
that
specific
bottle.
for the bottle.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've
Or
been talking.
we were thinking about doing maybe even a fundraiser for a new bottle machine, and so that he can, provide bottles again. But that's different talk.
Yeah.
Different talk for different time.
No,
That's great.
We have thought
That's
about
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and we plan to be, doing events and pop-ups and.
Are you gonna do a grand
collaborations.
opening?
I don't know if a grand opening, more of like soft rolling in and seeing.
Okay,
'Cause it is
all right.
just, it is.
That's okay.
Starting, it's just gonna be Lindsay. Sorry.
Yeah, so.
So we're not
yeah,
hiring
this
anyone to
is
start.
No, one employee you'll be dealing with, so.
Yep.
That's okay. That's okay.
That'll be nice.
Yeah. But we'll keep everyone posted. I'm starting up with social media. I'll be on Facebook, websites, all that. So I'll definitely be in touch with the community if there's something coming up.
You'll be
soon.
taking
Yeah.
credit cards, right? It's-
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Good.
great.
Well, that's exciting. Denise, did you have anything?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Very
you good?
exciting.
I'm good. Just
Okay.
it's a public hearing, so maybe anybody from the
Yep.
if anybody from the audience has anything.
Anyone have any comments? Mr. Salo?
If you could go to the mic and just identify, if you don't mind.
Official.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dana Salo. I live proudly at 1 Springfield Court with that lady. Everybody knows that I've been a mailman I was for 37 years, and for a number of years I delivered mail to the porters, and I can't tell you if there's a harder working family in this community.
Yeah.
And I think they deserve everything they get out of this venture. And I think they should start right here with a unanimous approval from the town for this permit, license, or whatever it's called.
License.
It's a great family.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. There's going to be great success.
Yeah.
I'll be a customer.
I have
Good
no
luck.
doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
There is. I move that the Board of Selectmen close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second?
Moved in second, roll call vote. Ms. Donnelly?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy, aye. And the motion passes 3-0. Is there a motion to approve a alcohol license?
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and grant C and Cellar LLC application for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at C and Cellar at 21 Dock Square, Number 3, subject to the fulfillment of all conditions of Chapter 12 of the Acts of 2019 and all required inspections.
Second?
Okay, moved in second. And any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Selectman Donnelly?
Aye.
Selectman Campbell?
Aye.
Selectman Murphy, aye. Opposed, 0. The motion passes 3-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you're in. I think we should celebrate with wine and cheese.
Yeah,
Right?
plan on it.
That's great. Good for you.
He's so
Thank you.
good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Looking forward to it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, guys.
Congratulations.
Anything you need, let me know. Thank you.
Let's see, let's continue on. During our break, I did go over to the Board of Health meeting, and while I was there, I was only there maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most. They approved, they voted in the affirmative to support not having town meeting. So it was just an added plus, added appliance, yes.
I have one update
Sure.
that came through, and thanks to our lovely Becca in the back room over there. Hi, Becca. There was an update. I had mentioned the college fair.
Yes.
That has officially been canceled.
Yeah, I thought that was.
So I just wanted to make sure that if anybody was going to do it, that they knew about it. So
Right.
we're all about up-to-the-minute news here, right down to the wire. So there we
A
go.
lot of things, events that are outside in the open air are going to be, if we're going, continue to go down and canceling events, which we're going to have to do it methodically and so forth. But if like the motif number 1, you know, I think that will happen. Because a lot of that stuff is right now is outside, so.
Yeah.
Everyone stay tuned to social media and the newspaper and reverse 911s and things of that nature, so everyone can stay abrupt. And let's hope that this is the worst, as Dawn mentioned, and that we can move forward and people are healthy.
So just so we're clear, Mr. Chairman, they voted to postpone it and then tentatively set the date for May 16th? Is that-
We didn't talk about a date, but
Okay.
we did, they talked
But the meeting
about-
is definitely postponed?
Yep, they wanted it, they agreed with it. The superintendent of schools was there as well, getting some direction in
Okay.
terms of the more updated information about the virus. But we have pushed it out at least 30 days, which would put us at this,
May 4th would
Fourth.
be 30 days.
yeah, okay. So on a Tuesday, on a Saturday, the first Saturday, so.
We
Stay
shall
tuned.
see. Yep.
All right. Is there anything else?
Nope.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. Motion
We're out.
passes 3-0.